I'm an astrologer. I'm an astrologer of 21 years. So I've been doing it for quite some time. There are many branches of astrology. Business astrology is one of them. You would know astrology more commonly through horoscopes in the newspaper. That's a branch called media astrology. That's not what I do. Business astrology I find really interesting. I have a question for you. So how helpful would it have been for you to know that COVID-19 was coming? Yes? Hands up?
I might not have started my business though.
Yes.
There you go.
I might not have started. I started like a month,
either.
2 months before the first lockdown.
You would have probably started, but maybe not taken the
Most
direction.
people who
Yeah.
are severely ill would have left populated cities and gone
Yes.
out bush.
Yes. True.
It would have been
Isolated.
it would have been useful to know. It was in the astrology. So I'll explain to you in just a moment. I'm going to show you a weird image. It's called a birth chart, which is this, and some funny symbols over here. Okay, I'm going to explain it to you. So the astrology is the study of cycles, and the cycle of Saturn and Pluto coming together in alignment, what we call a conjunction. It happens every 33 to 38 years. So when that happens, we have a major global event that changes the way we live moving forward. The most recent time was 13th of January 2020 when this hit. And that's, of course, when we had COVID. I think we all went into lockdown in about March of that year. Okay. So the previous time it happened, we had the AIDS epidemic. The time before that, we had the Cold War, and the time before that, we had World War One. Okay, so we've kind of lived through the modern day World War One on an astrological level with COVID. Okay, so yeah, I'm just pointing out here, this is Saturn here and Pluto here, so it's those planets coming together in the sky from our perspective on Earth, because astrology works from our perspective on Earth. It's as simple as that, as our life is from our perspective. The birth chart always works from our perspective.
So we've got 33 years until the next one.
On that note, do you want to know when the dates are for the next one?
Sure.
Do you want to know? I'll tell
I'm
you at the
writing it
end
down.
if you do.
I'm writing it down.
You only want to know if it's not in our lifetime.
So I'll tell you at the end, but I do have the dates if it does interest you. Because it's there, it's in the astrology.
Why didn't they tell us?
What's that?
That COVID was coming.
No one asked, no one's listening to the astrology community. Could have told you. Anyway, so things that, there's the astrology toolkit. There's lots of things that you can cover off as a result of using astrology as a tool, as a decision-making tool in your business. I just want to acknowledge though at this point, this here is the birth chart of Bruna right here, who has agreed to be my guinea pig
Is
this
that
evening.
what I look like?
That's what you look like. That's what you look like on an astrological level.
Right.
So
God, it's complicated.
it is complicated. That's why you need an astrologer to interpret it. But basically, out of the birth chart, you can learn about things like major events coming up, like COVID, more regular events. When I say regular, I'm talking like day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. So still significant events, just not necessarily as major as a COVID event. Derailing events. An example of this is, do you remember when Julia Gillard was elected PM, but she had to negotiate with about 5 or 6 people?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason for that on an astrological level is that on the day of the election, Mercury turned retrograde.
Oops.
So Mercury talks about our mind, our decision-making process. Mercury, that is all about our decisions, started traveling backwards. So it was changing directions. We were changing our minds as we were walking in to vote for that election, okay? So if I was advising Julia Gillard at that time, I would have said to hold the election 3 weeks later once Mercury turns direct. So people have made up their minds and now ready to make the right decision. But she held the election on the day that Mercury literally was turning retrograde. People were walking in and changing their minds. Okay, so she clearly wasn't consulting an astrologer for that election. And she had to go to all that trouble as a result of that. Anyway, societal changes, that's when, planets change sign, because there's 12, you'd be familiar with the 12 star signs. So as the planets move through those different star signs. So we have the planet Pluto, which is about transformation, like death and rebirth kind of transformations. It's moving out of the sign of Capricorn, which is about corporate world stuff, really serious structural things, into Aquarius, which is more alternative and independent. So that's happening next year. And I firmly believe that the whole, push to go back into the office, people are going to reject it. They're going to move on and do more independent things as a result of that shift. They're not going to accept the whole going back into the office. They've had a taste of what it's like to have that independence, that flexibility. And then personal events. This is when, so I would look at Bruna's chart, for example, and just go, okay, what are the stories contained in Bruna's chart? And when do they come to life for her? When are they triggered? Because you've got the birth chart. The birth chart stays the same your entire life. So you are born with this birth chart. But then there are triggers as you go, throughout your life. Certain energies in the birth chart are triggered at certain times in certain ways, and then the stories of your life manifest. Anyway. Okay, so the birth chart. We're still on Bruna's chart here. To create the birth chart, you need 3 pieces of information. You need your date of birth, including the year. So I'm sorry, you do need to share your year of birth. A lot of women are very resistant to do that. Your place of birth, as in the town or suburb. I don't need your hospital name, just the town or suburb after the longitude and latitude. And your time of birth to the minute, which is the tricky one because a lot of people don't know their time to the minute. You can do a rectification. So I got Bruna to do this for me. So provide a lot of, key events in your life and the dates of that, and then you start to manipulate the chart to work out specifically, when that person is born. Because when you have a more accurate birth chart, you can provide more accurate information for that person and more accurate predictions as well for that person. The birth charts I use for when working with a business is the business owner or leader, in this instance Bruna. The business registration, as in when you registered your business with ASIC. A lot of people don't know the time there, although I've trained my accountant very well. He does it for me and he knows I tell him when to register something and he gets it almost to the minute. And then business opening the doors, so as in, when Glaze Galleria opened the door, that's a birth. So the premises were opened. 3 different types of charts there. So date of birth, place of birth, time of birth for each of those. If you don't know the exact time of birth, you then provide a list of key events and the dates around those. And I basically rectify it to then be able to provide more accurate information for you and your business. So opportunities for using astrology to help you and help your business. When to launch a business, when to launch a new product or service, or what other products or services you could introduce that you haven't thought of yet, because there's information that comes through in the birth chart from that. How to increase your revenue. There's a part of the chart that talks about money, how to make more of it. How to market your business. There's also a part of the chart that talks about marketing and branding, which is so you would have seen the birth chart, basically it's like an apple pie cut into 12 pieces. So the 9th piece talks about marketing. How to stand out from the crowd, what makes you unique to stand out. And more personally, how to be a better leader of your business, how to bring out the best in you and your team members, and how to connect more effectively with your customers and the public. So the moon in the birth chart talks about the public. How can you connect more strongly with the public? And how to communicate more effectively. So Mercury talks about communication. How can you get your message across more effectively? Bruna, this is you.
Do tell.
A couple of things that jump out about Bruna specifically. This is Bruna. Speaking publicly from a place of authority about learning and art can be healing. Have you found that at all, by the way?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
So that comes through on the birth chart. Adele, you look surprised. It's weirdly specific, but so speaking publicly, that's talking about Mercury. That's speaking, Mercury. It's right at the top of your chart. It's the most public place in the chart. From a place of authority, that's the Saturn coming through here. About learning, which is the 9th part here, the 9th house, we call it in astrology, that's a house. About learning and art, that's Pisces. Can be healing, that's the Chiron. So that placement there, that's how that manifests for you. And also here, so speaking from the heart in group situations is expansive and key to marketing. Bring on the tears, Bruna, because that's key to your marketing. So, but that's how you connect. So this is the speaking here, so it's the Gemini over here. From the heart, that's the moon. The moon is where your heart is. In group situations, that's the 11th part of the chart here. It's expansive next to that's the Jupiter here. Jupiter expands everything it touches. And it's key to marketing because the Gemini here connects back up to the Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini in the part of the chart that talks about marketing. Okay. So get out there and speak from an emotive place about how art is healing.
Yeah.
Because that's key to your
Yeah,
marketing.
which is what I spend most of my time doing.
There you go. Keep doing it. It's working. So that's just a couple of things in Bruna's chart, but keep drilling down, and there's all these stories that come out of it, and then we can look at when certain stories are coming to life, when's the best time to act on certain things. Glaze Galleria. So this is when Bruna registered Glaze Galleria with ASIC. This is weirdly specific here as well. So unusual activities connected to the hands that is about beautifying and is meditative in nature can generate an income. It's in the birth chart, but it's all key things coming out. So unusual activities being the Uranus here, connected to the hands is the Mercury. So Mercury and all the planets can manifest in like the symbolism, lots of different symbolism for the one placement, but how it manifests for you is where the interpretation comes in. So yeah, unusual Uranus activities connected to the hands being Mercury is about beautifying, that's the Venus. Meditative in nature, that's the 12th house here, and it can generate an income, that's the Taurus. And then here, I've got competitions in the neighbourhood or media can generate revenue. So, and that's the competitions is Mars down here in the neighbourhood, Gemini. The neighbourhood or media can generate revenue. This is the second part of the chart that I talked about where you can earn money. So this is about your earnings. Shared earnings, your earnings. So if you did actually start Glaze Galleria prior to COVID and you're like, oh my goodness, there's this major global event coming, you told me it's in the astrology, what the hell do I do? How can I keep earning an income? I would recommend that you start running competitions in the neighbourhood or media that involve unusual activities that are connected to the hands, that is about beautifying and is meditative in nature, because that can help you generate an income.
So more pottery wheel throwing.
Well, something a bit more like we drill down a bit more with that, but running competitions around it, getting people in the neighbourhood and in the and via the media interested.
Right.
But there's money for you in that.
Okay.
Where did those words come from?
What was that? Sorry.
Where do those words come from?
These they
Yeah.
come from me.
Uh-huh.
That's the interpretation.
Okay, right.
That's
Yeah.
me reading. So there's stories jumping out. I know you guys see weird symbols on the page, but to me there are stories jumping out.
So you're
from here.
Dr. Penny.
Yeah.
That's okay, another one.
I can do medical astrology too, by the way.
Okay.
That's one of the branches I do practice. And then now this is when Bruna opened the doors of Glaze Galleria. This one, I know you definitely do. So group activities that involve indulgences can generate an income. You do the claim SIP. So that's coming through in this particular birth chart. So group activities being the 11th here, involving indulgences, that's the Venus, and that can just generate an income in the Taurus there. So keep doing it. It's working. Clearly is working. And then some extra information here around, so opening the doors, what your customers get from walking through your door. It's providing a place of self-healing and nurturing. They're looking for that,
A lot of people do call it their happy place.
there you go. There you go. So it comes through in that particular birth chart. So again, this is very surface level stuff, just a couple of points out from each chart, but you can dig in more deeply. Many, many more stories contained in there. I've been practicing astrology for 21 years and I can still look at my own birth chart and get more information out of it. Same symbolism, but it all depends on the perspective that you're looking at it from, and the context of your world as well as you're looking at it. And then we look at when's the right time to strike, strike while the iron is hot. Do we want to know the dates of the next COVID-style world event? It's up to you guys.
Sure.
You want it?
Joe's
Yeah.
got to order in all the vaccines. So.
But you don't know what the event's going to be, do you?
I've got
You
some
said 30
ideas.
years is the interval?
So the COVID event, so the previous, actually I'll go back to that one. Nope. So the previous COVID event happened in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn rules old age, and what was COVID targeting?
Old age.
Older people. The next cycle of this story, because astrology is the study of cycles, the next stage in this cycle, Saturn and Pluto come together in the sign of Pisces. So Pisces So there'll be a transformation, a restructuring in society around some ideas here. So drugs and pharmaceuticals and alcohol in society, how we deal with that, how art and photography is perceived and experienced, how water is used, toxins, sewage, fuel, and viruses, things that are unseen. It's major global events coming. This is just a part of this cycle. There's other major global events coming, of course, but that's this cycle that I'm talking about here. The dates we're looking at, because there's 3 dates. So with COVID, there was 1 date. These 2 planets came together once. We got everything in one big hit. We just shut down really quickly. Whereas next time it's 3 hits, so it's a bit more gradual, easing into it. Still major global event.
Nice to ease into it.
Nice to ease into it. Wouldn't that be nice to get a bit more warning around COVID? It's ages away, but that's the next event in this particular cycle. The birth charts contain a lot of information, and let me know if anyone has any questions about what I've just covered off.
Wow.
And thank you, Bruna, for being a case study.
Pleasure.
Yes, go for it.
I was gonna.
Do you use software to generate your charts?
Yes.
And if a chart's bought for a child, do you think the chart maybe becomes self-fulfilling for that person?
It can be self-fulfilling. It all comes down to that individual. Like the energy of the birth chart has always got to play out in some way, whether it plays out in a positive or negative way. That's when the free will comes into play. But you've got to choose whether or not it's self-fulfilling. You can choose to try and overcome the challenges of your birth chart.
And
You can now create it.
So what would your business or Drummoyne's business, if they did something like, what would you do if you found out that, well, this is the stars are, yeah, what would you do if you found out that, you know, the stars are about to line up or not? Would you listen to it?
well, we're all
That's the
facing
challenge.
something very similar now with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So you get prompted all the time to
Yeah.
use Bing to ask it a question,
Yeah.
whether it's with regards to financial matters or medical issues or whatever. And again, it depends on how well it's interpreted as to whether you read the information
Absolutely.
that you're given correctly.
Yes, that's right. And it's symbolism and you interpret it. And I'm interpreting this from my, understanding of my world. And another astrologer would interpret it differently as well. But we'd both be accurate, just different perspectives. Yeah. You had a question?
Well, I was just going to say, is the next event
Yes.
is it smooth sailing until then?
No. No. Lots of bumps in the road until then. This is just the next
Yeah,
event
no,
in that
like
particular
there's-
cycle. The next version of a COVID style
I
event.
see, right.
Yeah,
So there
yeah.
are many concurrent cycles happening at once.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. So
And does the City of Canada Bay Council have a birth chart?
Yes. Yes.
That's-
Yeah. Absolutely. Everything is born. Everything is born. So yes, absolutely.
Picking up on what Angela was saying about the importance of like relationships and things like that, I just want to mention that Penny's going to be doing management committee at the community centre. They're professionals from all different kinds of areas, and they've done things like Myers-Briggs and DISC and those kind of personality profiles. And we put to the management committee whether they would be willing to use their birth charts to actually look at relationships and how we can work together more effectively. And everybody said yes. I was really surprised. Everyone said yes, and Penny's going to be running a workshop for us. So it's that application of it in a business context that Penny is, when she started talking to me about it, that's what I found really, really interesting, because it's like when you're talking about it being self-fulfilling, our management committee is probably going to be looking at something like that. I haven't done the workshop yet, from what Penny and I have spoken about. It's looking at how we, as we are now, and in relation to our birth charts, which hopefully hold some surprises, can actually start working together more as a committee. And I think it'll be a really interesting way of kind of getting past that kind of headspace back into the heart space and see how we can really start relating together again.
Yeah, the workshop's called Creating Connections, so it's about creating connections with yourself, other people as well, and your role in the community.
So watch this space. We're kind of the guinea pigs.
hope you checked out the date against the chart.
I do.
But it's interesting.
I do, absolutely.
Because we've been talking about the negative things of COVID, and I feel one of the positive things, if you can say it, is that a lot of people that are intelligent like us, I'm not sure that it applies across all groups in society, are more flexible, they're more open,
Yeah.
they're more open, especially with the explosion of awareness of mental health and issues around all of that. They're more aware of all of this stuff. And a lot of people know that there's also another, whatever it is, sixth sense or something out there. But how come we've never heard of business horoscopes before?
Because people can't get past the horoscopes in the newspaper and on websites that people think that's what it is. Like, it's been pitched for so long that that's what astrology is, and it's so not that. You know, so people can't get past that to be open to hearing the concept of business astrology. But I'm trying to change that.
Yeah,
so thank you all for coming along tonight.
This is an alien concept, you see. Kevin was going to ask something. Kevin,
Yes.
yeah.
Didn't all the
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
just going to say, didn't all the kings and queens of all
Correct.
times throughout
Correct.
history always have an astrologer
Yes,
on their
we
team
did.
to tell them,
Yes.
you know, when the right time to do this and blah blah blah.
Yeah. No, that's exactly.
It's just now that it's actually become
so it's
something different.
it was
because of
early
media.
1900s that the horoscopes were being written for the masses, and you know, people thought it was fun, so it kept going. But then that's what has become the
Like
public
a thing
persona
of
of
style.
astrology. Anyway, but certainly it was kings and queens that used astrologers. It was in the 1700s things went downhill around astrology, unfortunately. Trying to bring it back to life though, more publicly. Go for it.
Penny, there's an aspect of Mr. Smith's interiors that deals with awnings and blinds and the climate as such. With climate change, is there any links with what you do?
Look, I would say probably yes, but I'm not researched on that particular area, so I couldn't share anything with you. But you can get so much out of the birth chart and the way planets are moving in the sky at the moment, which we refer to as transits. They are actually telling a story. But I don't know enough about climate change and the link to astrology to be able to comment on
And
that.
the only other question I have, and I know nothing about charts.
Yes, that's all right. No one does. That's why I'm
There are
here.
a couple of charts you showed of
Bruna?
Bruner's business, and the bottom of the chart was empty.
Yes, that's exactly right. Like you see, they're all different
Yes,
shapes.
the one there.
It's all,
What
the
house is
meaning
that?
What houses are
Do
there?
I need to fill that house?
No, they're empty.
Okay, no, good question. So there aren't enough planets and luminaries to actually cover all the houses. So there'll always be an empty house somewhere. It's okay because they're actually not completely empty, because you'll see that they're actually assigned at the start of the houses. Okay, so then you refer to, for example, we've got Virgo down here. Virgo is ruled by this the planet Mercury. So we look to Mercury. We basically draw in Mercury to that house. What's the story coming in through Mercury that's sitting up here?
what house is it in?
The 11th house, which is about groups and socializing.
So that's in Virgo. Is that what you mean?
So the Mercury here, Mercury rules the sign of Virgo. So we've got Virgo down here on the third house. This is about communication, neighborhoods, siblings. Although this is like opening the doors. So it's communication, the way like your marketing copy, for example, like what's the words that you use to get the message across. Very detailed wording with Virgo down here. And you draw that, you connect the Virgo here to Mercury, because Mercury rules Virgo. So we're talking about very detailed communication being the third house with Virgo there, connecting up here to Mercury in a group situation. So Bruna would need to provide very detailed communication in those group situations.
Yeah, bit verbose, you're right.
Yeah. So, and then the Libra down here, it's connected to Venus up here. So this is all about lots of group activities going on here, funnily enough. So it's always interesting, like when you look at a business chart, you can absolutely just see the business coming through on the chart, like you do. Like you do group activities, and this is about group activities here, and you've got all this energy going on up here. So it's not, although there's no planets down here, there's a sign down here, and you connect the sign to the planet, and you draw that story down to that part of the chart.
So you only need 3 inputs to build
Three
the chart.
inputs.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
So
3 inputs.
but
The
they're hard
exact
to
same.
come by.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Date of birth, including the year, place of birth, town or suburb, time of birth to the minute.
But- And for businesses, it's 3 the versions of for 3
Ideally,
events.
so the business owner or leader, you
Yeah.
can actually do like the whole like leadership team, for example, in a corporate environment, business registration when it was registered with ASIC, and if you're lucky, business opening the doors. That's not, you don't always get that. But Bruna was so good with all of her dates. She had everything. So
She had
I
a
asked-
big marker to remember it by. It's like,
yeah.
whoops, down, open doors, closed doors.
No, the time of birth I thought was going to be a struggle, but my mother came to the rescue.
Your time of birth, by the way,
Yeah, which is midday.
it's midday, but it's not
Oh.
accurate.
Oh.
So it's either about
Well, it's Italian. Come on, they're not
Yeah,
very
that's
accurate.
right.
Which hemisphere? Which part of the world?
Italy.
Yeah. No. But I mean, the
Yeah,
time of
does
birth.
that make a difference?
No, it doesn't, because
Ah.
this is a snapshot of the heavens at the moment of your birth from this location. That's why we've got the location.
Right.
I
We
do
need to
have
know-
one question about
Yeah.
the time of birth. Does the fact that we changed the, for daylight saving,
Yeah.
does that impact it?
No,
It is
it's
what
that
it
time
is.
and
It's
it's
the
that
time.
and that moment.
Yeah.
So, and it's all in the software.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it. Just enter the details in it. It spits out the chart. Yes.
Sorry. Is that a water trine?
Don't leave me hanging. What does that mean?
Lots of.
Yeah, it's the connection between all the houses.
So that's this blue line here.
Yeah.
It's like a big triangle, and it goes from one water sign to another water sign to another water sign. So
Right.
lots of flowing emotions.
Yeah, emotion.
At
Rich.
not in you. This is your personal
Emotional.
chart. Lots
Yeah,
of
it's
emotions.
I want to ask
They
that
just keep
question.
flowing.
Yeah, lots of it, as you witnessed.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to ask how come Aries didn't get a look in anyway.
Aries.
Yeah, well.
I'm an Aries
because I
too.
know there's definitely characteristics.
What do you mean Aries didn't get a look in anyway?
Yeah, you didn't mention it. That
So
was
you're like,
also.
oh, I can tell.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't see that specific from this angle.
Yeah, that's right. I did mention several signs. It wasn't just Aries specifically. Aries, by the way, is the sign of the entrepreneur.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Doing it very publicly, Bruna. This is top of the charts, as public as you can get.
Right.
So what is the 10th house about?
That's about your status, what you're famous for. So famous in your community or beyond. But it's what you're known for. So Bruna's very well known in her world with the sun up here at the top of the chart.
All right.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Are we good?
Yeah,
That
thank
was very
you.
enlightening.
Yeah.
very astronomical. Very